Welcome all, and thank you for your time. My name is Rudy Kriev in Group 5, and this presentation is on the wicked problem of unequal access that DD Australia is currently experiencing. The issues that this presentation and subsequent report are focusing on are the lack of female drivers in the rideshare industry, the denial of service animals, and disability access in the rideshare industry. The approach taken for this wicked problem started with a research analysis that allowed for a broader understanding of the issues that forms it and its impact on drivers, riders, and DD. These insights helped to shape the way the issues could be approached. From there, a combination of qualitative and quantitative research was done, first in the form of interviews, with questions drawn from the insights gathered in the research analysis. The results from these interviews were synthesized into themes. These themes showed more of what the participants needed from the rideshare industry in relation to issues that form the wicked problem. The themes also included their approach to personas and scenarios they were placed in. These themes were then used in a double diamond thinking process to iteratively develop proposed solutions that considered the capabilities of DD, legislation that is already in place, and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. These aligned the solutions more specifically to the issues while not only being sustainable, but also striving to balance between being desirable, feasible, and viable. Reaching out to individuals, I received assistance from 9 participants that have had experience using rideshare services before. Of those participants, 55% were female and 44% were male. They were asked to either put on and change personas and/or was placed in a scenario. I was fortunate enough to have an outlier for the issue of a lack of female drivers, with one female participant having driven for a rideshare company. The insights gained from her allowed the research to be compared to real-world examples, resulting in some contributions that her experience could only provide. Of the participants, the largest age range was 29 to 39, the majority living in the outer east of Melbourne, and having used Uber the most. Participants were allocated to issues based off availability, topic, and the outlier. Lack of female drivers were assigned 3 female participants, including the outlier. Service animal interviews were performed by 3 male participants, and disability access had 2 females and 1 male assigned to it. For the issue of lack of female drivers, the research analysis showed that understanding what safety meant for female drivers was important to properly ascertain the challenges female drivers are facing, and then start resolving those that are in DD's control. During interviews, the following themes appeared as those contributing factors. Driving times. All participants provided evening and early morning hours as the most dangerous, typically 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. Physical safety. These themes had topics around a lack of barriers in the vehicle, a lack of visibility in the evening, and rider seating in the vehicle. For riders, it was intoxicated riders, inappropriate comments, or conversation topics. And for support services, unknown destinations, passenger review, and quick, reliable access to emergency response services. For the proposed solutions, for unsafe driving times between 8 p.m. and 2 a.m., a new DD app feature could be developed that detects when the vehicle has suddenly stopped. This will trigger the DD 24/7 response team to call the driver and check in. This feature can be used by the driver to alert DD for help without them needing to use their hands. For physical barriers inside the vehicle, full or partial funding of physical barriers will be payable through deductions in service fees or out of pocket for the driver. For visibility, the camera can be used within the app to record a trip. Rider seating choice, stickers or app notifications for riders to use the rear seats only. For intoxicated riders, If the rider breaks any of DD's terms and conditions pending the breach, the sudden stop feature or SOS button can be used. Alternatively, the trip can be completed and a review of the rider made, and if needed, unmatched from the rider. For inappropriate comments or conversation topics, contact DD support, leave a rider review, and if need be, unmatched from the rider. For unknown destinations, the driver can use the preview destination feature. For passenger reviews, the driver can also first review a passenger using the passenger review services, deciding if they would like to engage with that service or not. And for quick, reliable access to emergency response services, the driver can use the SOS button. For the issue of service animals, pulling again from the research analysis, the following themes became evident. Both drivers and riders noted the cleanliness of the vehicle being an important concern. Participants were also unaware that in the past 14 months, riders with assistance animals had been denied rides 27 times in Australia. This speaks to the lack of understanding or knowledge of the laws that help handlers and their service animals. However, further investigation into these laws had shown a certification that service animals are required to pass to be certified as a service dog under the Guide, Hearing and Assistance Dogs Act of 2009. The Public Access Test, or PAT test, assesses the service animal on cleanliness, behavior, and toilet training, to name a few. With regards to the latter, service animals are required to relieve themselves on their handler's command as part of the certification. Drivers and members of the public are also legally allowed to ask a handler for proof of their service animal's certification. For participants, under the persona of a driver, they expected the rideshare company to inform them about these laws. For the proposed solutions for cleanliness of the vehicle, as part of the PAT, dogs need to be presented as clean, well-groomed and toilet trained to on command. Alternatively, this can be included as part of the rider profile in the app. This would allow the driver to know beforehand that there will be a service animal and it has a PAT certification. For allergies, drivers could provide medical proof. The driver could opt out for providing these services via the app and won't receive trips with service animals. For lack of knowledge, training drivers on the PAT and their right to ask for the service animal's accreditation can help to alleviate or remove their concerns. And for the expectation of training, notifying drivers of changes to legislations via the app and or creating training modules that can be pushed and tracked through DD's app for compliance. For the issue of disability access, there are over 180,000 Australians who currently use a wheelchair, with 25,000 who use a powered wheelchair. These passengers and those who are not able to exit the wheelchair on their own might need a wheelchair accessible vehicle or WAV. The cost to modify a vehicle into a WAV starts at $25,000. This is excluding the cost of the appropriate vehicle and the TLIC 2040 certification that the driver needs in order to operate it. For those drivers who meet these requirements, DD can use their current platform to connect riders with these drivers. However, it is a significant out-of-pocket cost for drivers. Keeping in line with the scope of the report's proposed solutions, riders with a disability that do not require a wheelchair are the focus of this section. Through a scenario that removed typical parking that participants were placed in, it showed a desire to do the right thing while still obeying traffic laws. Using insights from this scenario and others that came from the interview, the following themes appeared. Access to appropriate parking for pickup and drop-off, riders being able to notify the driver of their disability, drivers being informed of a rider's disability prior to pickup to be able to plan ahead. For further research, showed that organizations could be eligible for the Australian Disability Parking Scheme. This will allow drivers to have a valid disability parking permit, allowing them access to these parking spaces for the purpose of a safer pickup and drop-off for both driver and rider. For the proposed solution, and for the first issue, a disability parking scheme permit could allow the driver to use any available disability car park spaces. For the second issue, Didi's app could allow the rider to notify the driver that they have a disability and will be waiting near a disability parking space, further facilitating ease of access. And for the last, participants found it discriminatory to ask for proof of a disability. Through the app and the disability parking permit, drivers would not need to ask. Thank you for your time.